Hello, I'm Dr. Jigare Pancha, an occupational therapist. So here I have got you the another video of infections and tumors of musculoskeletal system. There are many more videos to know more things. Stay tuned to our channel. So here we are talking about the investigations of the other forms, that is in the infections of the bone. So the thing is here that is pre-prosthetic joint infection. So in this there are certain investigations, as you can see I mentioned here: C-reactive protein, CRP, uh, blood count, liver function balls, creatinine, so and many other kind of investigations. So neither CRP nor a differential blood count of leukocytes enable a prosthetic infection to be detected or excluded. So we say that there are certain calcitonin is also not very sensitive to localized infections, including periprosthetic infection. So empirical use of antibiotics where the infections is suspected, not indicated unless the patient is systematically unwell. So this comprises the sensitivity of a molecular diagnostics in revision surgery with resistance testing, which must provide the basis for therapy. So fistula swabs are often misleading as they do not enable reliable diagnosis of the pathogen due to lack of correlation of the pathogen identified intraoperatively. Maybe irrelevant skin bacteria as a result of a contamination. Arthrocentesis, again, this is the key form of analysis, and it should however always be carried out in consultation with the surgeon, as it involves a greater risk of infection than aspirations of a native joint. So the cell count in the synovial fluid is only diagnostically reliable once a period of 2 months has passed since surgery. So, in the case of prosthetic knee joints, an implant related infection can be assumed with a white blood cell count greater than 1700 per microal, and or granulocyte percentage more than 65%. Granulocyte more than 65% of the count with a good level of sensitivity. We can say around 94 to 97%, and specificity of a 8 to 88% to 98%. So the prosthetic hip joints, the threshold are higher than again 40 to 100 microal leukocytes, and or granulocyte percentage more than 80%. So as this kind of thresholds, the sensitivity is 84% by 84% with a specificity of 93% by 82%. So this is more of a investigation viewpoint of this analysis and the investigation of the infectious joint infections of the periprosthetic joints. So these values are considerably lower than the thresholds in the patients with inflammatory arthropathy or with arthritis in a natural joint. So the gram stain test of the synovial fluid shows poor sensitivity of less than uh, 6, 26%, and at 45 to 100% the sensitivity of the culture is highly variable. So it is particularly low if antibiotics have been previously administered. So the diagnostic value of cultures based on tissue collected arthroscopically or intraoperatively is significantly higher. So in contrast, intraoperative swabs should be strictly avoided because biopsies have a much higher level of sensitivity. So in certain situations, special requirements must be communicated to the laboratory. Say, for example, if long-term therapy against staphylococci has not been successful, the patient must be actively tested for small colony variants. The diagnostic laboratory should also be warned of potential of slow-growing pathogens or those that are difficult to culture. So, Brucella granuli, Catella, or Mycobacteria. So Eubacteria PCR is an alternative of negative microbiological cultures. Sonication again is one of the is cultures of the medium in which the implants, that is prosthetic joint screws, have been pre-treated by sonications, offer the highest sensitivity, particularly when uh, preceded by antibiotic therapy. And when dealing with the laboratories, it is worth using a special form of implanted infections that is suitable for microbiological and histological analysis and sonications. Again, imaging is also used as conventional X-ray examination. Can request specific analysis if there is any uncertainties, or if need be anti-granulocyte and uh, scintigraphy can help, possibly in combination with SPECT or CT. So that's how the different forms of analysis can be conducted in these cases and in certain forms. So there are certain uh, kinds of investigations also called blood tests. In this, the white blood cells, differential blood counts can be used. C-reactive protein, that is CRP test, is an acute phase protein. The normal level depends on the method used in this, uh, and the CRP level is independent of age, sex, blood loss, and anesthesia. It is seen to determine a pre-operative value. The extent of the surgical procedure, the administration of the steroids or the other immunosuppressants or post-operative hematoma influence the CRP level. So it increases within 6 to 24 hours in response to inflammatory processes and has a half-life of approximately 1 day. Again, as a result, the CRP level is an important post-operative clinical parameter. It usually peaks on the post-operative day 2 to 4 and 2 to 3, day 2 to 3, and then continues to fall steadily over the post-operative course free of complications. Further, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, that is ECR, is used. Procalcitonin is again is a good parameter for distinguishing between bacterial and viral respiratory infections. The place of procalcitonin in the diagnosis of bacterial and non-bacterial joint infections is under debate. Further, interleukin, then atherocentesis, as I just mentioned before. So the native joints, in case of a suspected joint infection, or the atherocentesis should be done as soon as the possible for the diagnosis, because the cell count alone does not provide sufficient evidence of the infection in case of the native joint. It is necessary to wait for a bacteriology results. This usually takes too long. Therefore, if there is a strong uh, suspicion of native joint infection, it is recommended to combine diagnostics and treatment. For example, using arthroscopic lavage. So this approach should be performed without delay, and the objective is to protect the cartilage against the bacterial destruction through rapid or early intervention. Then techniques, again there are different techniques for anthrocentesis, that is different in out of for the concern and our domain as well. So again, cell count differentiation gram stain test can also be conducted. Cell count is generally performed for the synovial cell counts, provide reliable results for the diagnosis of infection, particularly in the patients with prosthetic joints. In case of periprosthetic knee and hip joint infection, there are defined thresholds for the leukocyte counts and the granulocyte fraction in the puncture specimen. So this count can be distorted in patients with inflammatory rheumatic disease and neutropenia. So in total knee arthroplasty, total hip arthroplasty, then native joints is all in all this you can be used. Then crystals, that is the crystal analysis provides information about crystal induced synovitis, but it does not rule out an infection. Viscosity, again a high viscous puncture specimen decreases the likelihood for any kind of infection. Gram stain test is only used for rapid diagnosis if it is positive. Its low sensitivity of less than 26%, specificity more than 97% shows that this is seldom the case. Further, Microbiological results can also be used in this. That is, the interpretation of the cultures is easy when the growth is early and the synovial cell count is typically of the periostatic infection. If contamination is suspected, atherocentosis may be repeated to clarify the situation with a second culture. Testing the synovial fluid with biomarkers, then contrast enhanced angiography can also be conducted. As you can see in this image on the right side, 6.2 here is the contrast enhanced arthrography. So imaging using contrast agent administered once the puncture is completed via the in situ needle in especially useful in the cases of prosthetic hip joints. It reveals protrusions from the joint cavity, abscess cavity, and fistulous tracts, even if no external fistula is visible. So, these signs are often criteria for two-stage revision, improved resolution through digital subtraction technique, which is possible. Imaging diagnosis again is used. So, if radiologically is used to diagnose infection, the pathophysiology of the infection must be understood in addition to the imaging. In uh, pathophysiological term, it is acute infection and chronic infection. So acute infection is about vasodilation, increased neutrophil and monocyte penetration, exudation, and migration. In chronic infection, there is proliferation of lymphocytes and macrophages in the tissue, vascularization, and scarring. So again, there are certain methods of imaging diagnostic, that is conventional X-ray examination, CT scan, MRI, scintigraphy, then single photon emission computed tomography, that is PET or CT, then positron emission tomography, that is PET scan, and CT scan. So these are the involved uh, investigations which are used in this in the analysis and investigation of the infections in the musculoskeletal system. So as in the treatment form, there are certain objectives for this. So primary objective of the treatment is elimination of the infection. So this is more of done by surgeons and doctors in this kind of issue. We as an occupational therapist, we help the individual to be functional and independent in self-care activities, especially because this is related to infections. So as in the case of infection, hygiene is very much important, and self-care and grooming skills, so that is all toileting skills and anything related to this. So basic ADL as such, and PADL, that is personal ADL. We should be treating the individual to be independent in these types of ADL, so at least he can maintain the hygiene and the chances of infection can be reduced on the other side. Further, these treatments are being performed by the doctors and the surgeon, as I mentioned. And so here the primary objective in that case is elimination of the infection and implant that functions correctly without any pain. So these objectives can best be achieved if infection is recognized at an early stage, and the and consist treatment principles which are respected. So the five different types of interventions are possible as a rule. So that is surgical debridement with retention of the implant, one stage implant replacement, two stage implant replacement with a spacer and a short interval, or without a spacer with a long interval. Again, explanation of the implant, that is a hip or shoulder, or arthrodesis, maybe knee, upper ankle joint, uh, shoulder, elbow, without re-implantation basically. And you have suppressive long-term therapy with antibiotics and no surgical intervention. So there are clearly defined criteria for each of these types of intervention. So in contrast, both antibiotic therapy alone and surgical revision without adequate antibiotic therapy are inappropriate. So therapy must be jointly planned by an orthopedic surgeon. So they generally plan this kind of therapy in a very collaborative manner, and so this is in collaboration between the orthopedic surgeon and also the infectious disease physician. So again, this has been tested for the hip, knee, elbow, shoulder, in some cases on numerous occasions. So if the intervention and antibiotic therapy are correctly selected, a success rate is at least 80 to 90%, which can be expected. Further development of this algorithm can be expected, although changes must be reviewed scientifically before they are introduced. So we say that there are certain surgical treatment methods of this. So surgical treatment requires experience as the so-called standard case more than often than not is an exception. So this is particularly true when evaluating a pre-operative clinical findings and post-operative progressive with its associated pitfalls. So surgical measures are classified into those that are essentially the same across all five types of intervention, and those that are typically for particular treatment approaches. So cornerstones for the treatment management, that is the approach, debridement approach can be, the selected approach must be large enough to ensure good visibility, particularly in the hip area. Following minimal invasive approaches, it is sensible to select a new approach that also enables transfemoral approaches or trochanteric osteotomies. It is crucial that aggressive debridement and complete explanation, even if fixed implant, can be done without risking additional bone or soft tissue damage. So, knee approaches also usually require widening and are often supplemented using a tuberosity osteotomy. Debridement is again done, that is, which equates to cleaning up the site of infection. Its primary objective is to reduce the bacterial count at the site of infection to optimize the conditions for antibiotic therapy. Radical excision of the periprostatic tissue is mandatory. In case of fistula, it is useful to fill the tract with a mixture comprising one part of methylene blue and many others. So this is how it's done here. Drainage also is done. So thorough drainage of the surgical site is essential. The drain should have a large diameter and evenly distributed across the surgical site. So the lumens are not immediately sealed by coagulation. So this is another form. Skin suture, follow-up revisions, then which can be done by the removal of the radon drainage site for revision surgery. Secondary fluid accumulation may occur. Regular or careful checks of the scar area are mandatory. If there is a risk that the wound will reopen, so immediate revision surgery with renewed drainage must be recommended. So these are so the fluid will that accumulates in deep areas is generally sterile. However, if the opens prior to revision surgery, there is a risk of exogenous superinfection kind of. So the alternative option is the second look procedure. So basically, this is how the procedures are done for the case of periprostatic infections. So now you have there are certain specific techniques in the surgical treatment, that is debridement without explanation of the implant. So the procedure must be carried out within 3 weeks of the symptoms of infection occurring prior to atherocentesis, which is advisable, as this follows any resistant bacteria that may be present to be identified. Further, there are one-stage implant replacement, that is also prior to atherocentesis, which is advised, and specific surgical steps to be performed in that. So as you can see certain images over here which I mentioned for your reference, that how it looks like and what to be done in that form. So this one stage has an implant explanation and implant re implantation. So in implants or is explantation, so that is loose implants must always be removed prior to the infection revision procedures. If the infection persists for for longer than 3 weeks, securely fixed implants should be removed. Cementless implants must be handled in the same way as cemented implants. All foreign bodies in the implant area, including small residual amount of cement and screw tips that have broken off, must be completely removed. Implant reimplantation. So in that experience, the implant may be selected based on the local bone stock. It is equally possible to use cemented or cementless models. Due to the low uh, recurrence rate, it was not possible in the follow-up examinations for the individuals. So in the two-stage implant replacement with spacer and a short interval, the variant is particularly suited to different soft tissue situations, but not for the problematic bacteria. So there are certain spacers, so this should be ideally be adapted to existing defects, so that no bone must be sacrificed to anchor the spacer and secure fixation. So that's how the certain things done. And here this for this you can see you can see in these images which is being mentioned here for your reference. You can see the spacer here in this image in the bottom of the slide. 7.5 is marked here. This spacer preparation, image A is in the combination with the angle plate, and image and the head is molded in an appropriate size shell. B is the plate acts as a central reinforce. High viscosity cement is molded and forms spacer is pressed into the clean medullary cavity. And further in the image C, you have prior to the reimplantation, the spacer can generally be tapped out in one piece as such. So you can see the forms of it, which is maybe helpful. Then restoration with soft tissue defects. So this is often particularly important in knee area and ankle area and ankle joint. So the most reliable results can be achieved if soft tissue cover is achieved when the implant is removed or within 2 weeks. So free flaps may be complex, but they do not damage the soft tissue surrounding the implant. So that forms are also here, and makes it different. So you can see in the image on the top, 7.7 image of a male 43-year-old age, two-stage replacement with a long interval with uh, granulate catella and alicans. So explanation of the implants with the simultaneous media, gastrocnemius muscle flap, and the split thickness skin graft. So the large area bridge, yeah, using a unilateral external fixator, so that the subsequent implant region remains free from the Shen screws. So that's also, this is a two-stage kind of a formation, and help in certain situations, and to give the idea. So also there is a explanation of the implant only with the gallstone hip. So in which when the implant is removed, the muscle extending up to the proximal femur should be protected as far as possible. So if a supracondylar Steinman pin traction was previously carried out for 4 to 6 weeks in combination with the bed rest, the only measures required are an extended plastic cast during the last night with a mobilization during the day. So again, knee arthrodesis. So arthrodesis with an external fixator is the most reliable approach from an infectious disease perspective, built but is a difficult, particularly when large bone deficits are present. So it is not unusual for the remaining pseudoarthrosis again. Then there's certain antibiotic therapy which is also conducted by the doctors, and so prior to commencing this therapy, the bacteria responsible and the levels of resistance must be varied, which is varied by the doctors. So this antibiotic therapy is clearly defined for prosthetic joint infection with staphylococci, and numerous studies have shown that combinations with rifampicin are particularly effective, as the medication actively combats staphylococci in the adherence or stationary growth plate. So that is how antibiotic therapy is being performed. And uh, so in the expected clinical results, if we see there, so there is one stage replacement generally results in a better functional outcomes than the stage replacement. So in the knee, the best results are achieved following debridement and implant retention. So, however, appropriate therapeutic approaches must be carried out, and which are being carried out by the individuals, by the doctors, and the certain firms. So, generally, no antibiotic therapy is conducted without a microbiological diagnosis, no intraoperative swabs, instead, biopsies of the culture and histology is being done. Further, no exclusive oral therapy with substances with poor bioavailability like penicillins and cephalosporins is being used. So, and no monotherapy using rifampicin is conducted. Only the in the beginning, the using of rifampicin once the wound has dried is introduced, and no monotherapy using quinolones to combat staphylococci is being conducted. So basically, in all general, I have just mentioned you certain infections occurring in the musculoskeletal system in the pre-prosthetic phase and the pre-prosthetic joint, and the infections related to that. So that is to be conducted and carried out, and this is how the procedures and things are done for the individuals and for many other uh, types of pre-prosthetic joints and related to the infection. So that was all about the infections of the musculoskeletal uh, uh, system in that prosthetic joint infections. In further parts of the lecture, I'll be talking about different infections and the tumors occurring in the musculoskeletal system. Thank you. And these are the references you can go through for better understanding of the topic and further to go in detail about every aspects of the topic. Thank you.